This video is a little bit different than I usually do. I want to share with you something that I found. I was watching Rosemary's Baby a few nights ago. Rosemary's Baby was created in 1968. It was starring Mia Farrow. She played Rosemary, and her husband was played by John Cassavetes, who makes a deal with Satan for a famous acting career. The movie was produced and developed by this man, Roman Polanski, whose lovely 8 months pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, was murdered by a group of fanatics in 1969, about a year later, by people that followed this man, Charles Manson. So Rosemary and her husband live in the Dakota House in New York City. It's a very famous icon. It's got a long, rich American history. It was built in 1884. It's had a lot of famous people live there. It's an interesting read. It's a rabbit hole to go down. It's claimed to be haunted and all kinds of interesting things. But one of the most famous tenants that lived there ever was this man, John Lennon, who was murdered at the front entryway in 1981. So things start to get a little bit twisted. Rosemary has a baby, and while she is unconscious, this group of coven of witches, they take the baby, and she's just kind of left to herself, all alone in a bedroom, and she keeps hearing a baby cry, and she's very suspicious at this point. So she goes to investigate a little further because she keeps hearing this crying baby, and it's all old people that live in this building. She knows that nobody has a baby but her. So she hears the cries coming from behind this door she finds behind her closet. So she takes out all the towels, she takes out the shelves. The closer she gets, the louder things are. She peeps down the peephole, the keyhole, and she can definitely ascertain at this point that there's a group of people gathered behind this door with a crying baby. So she knows that her baby is down here at this point, and the apartment is rented. The tenant is a warlock, one of the chief warlocks in this group of coven of witches. And here she's looking straight down the hallway, and she decides she's going in there. So she goes to the kitchen and she arms herself with this large butcher knife to go investigate a little further. And just as she's about to go through the door, she hears the keys rattle at her front door, and she knows that her husband is coming through. She doesn't trust him at this point, so she takes off, running down the hallway to hide. He incidentally just comes back to get some ice for the party that they're having over there next door. So she knows he's involved. She doesn't know how, but so she's afraid of him at this point. She takes off running down the hallway. And one of the most chilling scenes in the movie, I'll show you coming up, is, well, she happens to bump the bassinet. And the view to the kitchen is, if you were standing in the kitchen, you'd be able to see the bassinet she bumped rocking. And she doesn't want her husband to see that because he thinks that she's sleeping at this point. And one of the most chilling scenes is that she sticks out that butcher knife to stop that bassinet from rocking back and forth. Very famous scene. Really kind of scary for back then, I guess. So he leaves, he goes back over, and she decides that she's going down that hallway. And here she is, armed to the teeth with this big knife. And as she goes through the hallway, she finds all this weird art. I guess it's appropriate for a warlock's apartment, but here she looks to the right and she sees this painting. And she looks to her left and she sees this painting. And that's weird enough in itself, but that's probably another story. So there's weird art all the way down this hallway, all over the place. But the one that I really want to take a look at and what this video is about is this one. Okay, to me, take a look. Now look at this. This is Notre Dame Cathedral burning. It burned on April 15th of 2019. It's very, very similar. You see the steeples, you see the round stained glass windows with flames coming out here, same thing. You see the round window, the iconic window with the flames coming out, the turrets on top. So, okay, she proceeds down the hallway and she finds the entire coven in there. They're all rich and kind of famous, and she wants to know what they've done with her baby. And here's the baby here in a black bassinet. And there she is. She's wielding the knife. She's armed with that. But here, as we zoom in and circled, you'll see an upside down cross that hangs over the baby's bassinet. To me, that looks a lot like this. This is Notre Dame when the steeple fell, which makes an upside down cross. So let's look a little further. Let's just take a minute and we're going to go to Google 3D images and we're going to get a pretty good look around at Notre Dame Cathedral. So here's one side of it. You can see the steeple on the top. And we're going to swing around to the front. You'll see the turrets on top. You'll see the iconic round stained glass window. And the angle that I think that the painting in the Warlock's house is, we're going to swing around to that, and I'll show you what angle I think that was from. It was right about here. Right about here. Right about that angle. You see the turrets on top. You can see the stained glass window, the steeple. Here's an actual photo, courtesy Getty Images. All links to the images are in the description box. Here's some more. There's a lot of them online. These are just fair use. And I thought this was interesting. It had a gargoyle overlooking the steeple. Now let's take another look at an actual photo. This is Notre Dame Cathedral burning at night. Take a good look at that. And here's the painting that was in the Witch's Coven's Warlock's apartment. To me, they're almost identical. You can see the flames coming out of the iconic round stained glass window. Take a good look. And I'll leave you with this. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12.